Hi, this is Kat with Beadaholique, and in this video I'm going to show you how to add beads to a Centerline hexagon link. And I'm going to show you how to finish off and make a really cute pair of tassel earrings. So this is our Beadable Centerline link, and you can see that it has little holes along each side there. So we're going to fill that with a very loom-like pattern of Miyuki Delicas. Now, what fits in here perfectly are the Miyuki Delicas size 11, and I have two colors here, but this is a great project if you just have a few beads left over, because if you look at my example here, you can see that there's just a few beads in there just to add a little pop of color, but there's not a whole lot of beads that you need. So I'm just using these two colors as an example. So to finish off our earring, I'm just going to be using a kidney wire. I have a jump ring here that I'm going to use, and this is a 5mm 21 gauge. I have a little tassel, and then I have some NYMO here, which is going to help us get those beads onto our center line. And then I'm going to be using a big eye needle here. And then for other tools, I have just a pair of snips. You can also use scissors as well. I have two pairs of chain nose pliers. One is regular, one is bent. And then I have some GS Hypo cement, and that's just going to help us secure that cord when we are done. So that's pretty much all you need. So let's go ahead and get started. So first off, well, I guess you need a ruler, but you can also eyeball this as well. I'm going to do about 2 feet here of my NYMO, and I'm going to be generous with that 2 feet. I'm going to give myself just a little extra. And then I have one length there, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to match that length, and I'm going to get 2 lengths of my NYMO. Now I'm using the size D, and the reason we double it up is so that it really makes those beads fit nice and snug, so you have a nice strong structure because we don't want them to kind of wiggle around. All right, so I have my cord here. And now I'm going to take my big eye needle, and this has a big eye, so it's usually a little bit easier to string there, so you just kind of pry that open there. And I'm going to take 2 of my tails and slip them through that big eye there. And I'm going to go ahead and bring that down to about 8 to 10 inches or so. All right, so there we go. So we are all set. Now, we're ready to begin adding beads, but what I want to do first is I want to give you a chance to look at the center line here, because what you'll notice is at that top row, there seems to be a little extra gap at one of those from the hole to the hole that you don't see on the others. Now what this means is this is how you're going to want to kind of work with it. It's a great spot to end your work. It just sort of makes the beads line up nice and smooth. If you don't see that, don't worry about it. It may not be as noticeable on yours. It will still work no matter where you start. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to see that little gap, and we're going to start our work across. So what we want to do first is we want to go from the back to the front, taking our needle, coming up through that very first hole there. And go ahead and string that all the way through. And what we want to do is we want to leave a tail of about, I'd say, a good 8 inches or so. We're going to want to tie that off when we get to the other side. All right, so we're coming up through the front there. And now we're going to pick up our beads. So the first row that I'm going to do is I'm just going to do 3 of these little maroon beads here. And I'm just going to slide them all the way down. There we go. Now take your needle and go through the big center there and bring it towards the back. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go through that first hole going from the front to the back. And now I'm just going to go back through all of those beads there. So just take my needle and just go back through all 3 beads and string it down. And I can give it a nice little tug and just make sure that they're all sitting in there really nicely. And now I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go back through the center. And I'm going to actually come up through the exact same hole, the very first one there. There we go, up through that same hole. And I'm going to go through my beads one more time. So going up and through. And moving, there we go. And now moving my needle through that big center all the way to the back. I'm ready to start my second row. So now I'm going to come up through that second hole there. There we go. Oops, making sure to get my cords out of the way. There we go. Coming up through that second hole. And you want to just go slow. You don't want to let your cords get all tangled. And now I'm going to pick up my second row. For me, it's going to be 3 of the gold beads. Now you can choose whichever beads you like. You can make a fun little pattern. It's entirely up to you. All right, I'm going to go through the center. And I'm going to go up through that second hole there. And now I'm going to go back through my row of beads. Make sure they sit in there. I'm going to go back through that big center, bringing my thread to the back. And now I'm ready to start my third row. So it was only on that first row that we do that extra pass, and that's just to get that extra security on that first row. So again, just go through. We're going to pick up our beads. I'm going to pick up 3 of my maroon beads, string them down, and I am going to just wiggle my needle down a little bit further here on my cords. There we go. All right. There we go. And I'm going to go through the center. Again, just making sure nobody gets tangled in there. Go up through that third hole there. And then up through my row of beads. There we go. And go through the center. All right, so that's the basic process. So I'm going to do the next 3 rows, and then I'm going to show you how to finish it off. And we're just going to alternate with the maroon and the gold. So I'm picking up gold. Oops. But not before I go through. There we go. Now I can pick up my gold beads. Go through the center. Come up through our next hole. Up through my beads and through that center. And as you can see, this works up really, really nice and quickly here. Through that center, up through my next row, picking up my last 3 gold beads, going through the center, and going through the center just helps to crisscross your threads to give you that extra stability so that it's really nice and tight in there. All right, so we are now at our last row. I'm just going through the center there. So we're going to do it just the same as we did the other ones. We're just going to go through that hole, and I'm going to pick up my last 3 maroon beads here, string those down, go through the center, oops, looks like I got my tail caught in there. There we go. Go through the center. We're going to come up through that last hole there, bringing our beads together and stringing through them. There we go. And we're going to go through the big center, but we're going to kind of need to sneak our needle through. So we're just going to go on the outside there and just straight through. We just want to move our thread so that it gets to the back. All right, so now we're ready to tie off our thread. So I'm just going to flip it over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that and I'm going to go through, and you can see that I have these little thread bridges at the top there that are connecting the holes down to the beads. So I'm just going to take my needle and kind of just catch that little thread bridge under there. There we go. And I'm going to pull my needle down through until I have a little loop left. And I'm just going to take my needle, go through that loop, and this should give me a little knot there. And I'm just going to kind of pull and tighten. And then for added security, let's see if I can get my needle through these next 3 beads once more here. And this is really tight now because we've got a lot of thread going through there, but there we go. And if you need a little extra help with your needle, you can come in with your chain nose plier. There we go. And pull that through. All right, there we go. So I'm going to come in with my snips, and I'm just going to snip off as close as I can get it to my beads there. All right. So now we're just going to repeat that on the beginning side. Okay, so I have both sides tied off now, so all I need to do is I just need to add a little dab of glue, and this is just for that extra security. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to come in, and it has a nice little needle point to it. I'm just going to add a little dab of glue there, and a little dab of glue there. And that should be it. I'm just going to let that dry, and it's going to dry nice and clear for me so you won't see it, but this will be sort of on the back of your earring there. I just close up my glue. All right, so that is what we have there. Nice and adorable. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you really quickly how to finish off this cute little earring. And it's really simple. We're just going to add a little jump ring here to add our little tassel. So just give it a nice little gentle twist. Slip it onto the ring of the tassel and to the bottom loop of our earring finding, or of our hexagon. Close that up, making sure it has a nice good closure. And then, really simply, we're just going to open up our kidney ear wire and slip on our little hexagon. And that is it. So that gives us a really adorable little pair of earrings. Like I said, it's a great way to use up any seed beads that you might have lying around, and then you can just choose a fun color of your tassel to coordinate, and you have a great pair of earrings. This also comes in silver, so be sure to check out Beadaholique.com to see all from our Centerline line. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button below.